Here I am, Adam the Bull, and it's time for the bullpen with Adam the Bull. I should stop singing. I'm going to chase you all away. Yes, indeed, it is a Tuesday, last week of July. Would you believe it? Training camp is here. Browns training camp getting underway. Every team by the end of today, Tuesday, will have reported to training camp. The preseason is right around the corner. August is right around the corner. School is right around the corner for those of you who are still school age and listening or watching. I know that's a little scary to think about, but football is back, well, at least training camp. I mean, it's football really. It's like when baseball spring training starts. Like baseball's back, but is it really back? But it's close. At the very least, it's close. Here we go. Lot to get to. Deshaun Watson's in camp, but how long will he be there for? The latest on Deshaun Watson is, as of this morning, when I'm recording this, I started at 8 a.m. I'll be honest with you, give you the exact time. It is right now 8 a.m. There's no news, but could today be the day? By the time I record this podcast tomorrow morning, will we know the fate of Deshaun Watson? Who knows? Only the shadow knows. Why am I doing references from 70 years ago in shows I did not watch? I have no idea. But yes, there's really no news as of this moment as to what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. Hopefully we will find out this week. I'm going on vacation next week. I'm going to be off the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show for a week, and I won't be doing my podcast for a week. I'm going to take you inside. I was going to pre-record 5 podcasts for next week, but I don't really want to do that because I don't want them to be old and stale, and especially if the Watson news breaks when I'm gone, which is just my luck lately. A lot of times these big stories, they seem to happen when I'm on vacation. I'm hoping we get the news this week before I go. So anyway, so there'll be no podcast next week, and I'll be off. But the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show will continue without me for a week, and keep watching and listening because we're having so much fun, and it's going to be more great shows next week. But anyway, a lot to get to today. I will talk about, I love Mike Sando from The Athletic. He released his quarterback tier list that he does every year. I love that. Love chewing it over. I did chew it over last night to talk about it today. And plus some news. Jake Trotter of ESPN, well, not news, but he's made a suggestion. It's something the Browns might do this training camp, and I don't like it. I'll get into that. Plus the Guardians lose again. All of that and more coming up in the bullpen.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Yes, indeed. It is time for the bullpen with Adam the Bull. And we begin, of course, with Deshaun Watson. And as I already mentioned, there's been no update overnight and early this morning. So we're still waiting word. We're hoping it comes soon. I understand that we're not on the NFL timeline necessarily. We're on Judge Robinson's timeline. It seems like there should be enough time to make a decision. The league, I don't know if they care about fairness to the Browns. I mean, again, the Browns, and listen, and the reality is the Browns put themselves in this situation. They took this risk, and so if he starts camp and whatever, the Browns have to be prepared for at least some kind of suspension. So they know that's there. They don't know how long it'll be, obviously, and it would certainly change their, how much they're going to use Deshaun Watson versus Jacoby Brissett in training camp and potentially in the preseason if we don't have an answer before the start of the preseason, which I know we all think that's impossible, but at this point, I don't know. I mean, we have no idea when anything's going to happen. So we just sit and wait at this point. So in the meantime, there's a great article in The Athletic, comes out every year by Mike Sando. He does a great job, and he does the quarterback tiers. You may have seen this before. You may not have seen it before. And it's not his opinions. He polls 50 NFL coaches and executives for his, and this year this is the 9th year in a row he's done it. I'm always fascinated by it. And then the guys end up being ranked in tiers. He asked these 50 guys, every quarterback, are they tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, right? 5 different tiers. Now, some of us may look at this and say, well, there's more tiers than that because, even within the top tier, you may be able to break it in. I don't know. Do it. This is how he does it. I kind of like the way he does it. So here are the tier one quarterbacks. And the question is Deshaun Watson the tier one? And I'll tell you in order. Not only does he have them in tiers, but in order. Tier one quarterbacks, according to his polling. Number 1, Aaron Rodgers. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes. Number 3, Tom Brady. Number 4, Josh Allen. Number 5, Justin Herbert. Number 6, Joe Burrow. And that is it. Those are your tier one quarterbacks. Again, according to Mike Sando's list, his thoughts from 50 NFL coaches and executives. According to them, there are 6 tier one quarterbacks, including Allen, Herbert, and Burrow, but not Deshaun Watson. Now, how much does the off-the-field stuff factor in? Well, clearly it does, and I'll get to that in a minute. Tier 2 quarterbacks, number 7 overall, Matt Stafford. Number 8, Russell Wilson. Number 9, Deshaun Watson comes in at number 9. Number 10, Lamar Jackson. Number 11, Dak Prescott. Number 12, Derek Carr. Number 13, Kyler Murray. Number 14, Matt Ryan, which I don't understand how Matt Ryan is still a tier 2 quarterback, but okay, that's how you have it. That's where tier 2 ends, top 14 guys. As for Deshaun Watson and how I know that the off-the-field affects it, the last paragraph of the write-up he has for Deshaun Watson says, quote, "It will be not hard to put Watson back into tier 1 if he does what the Dolphins and Cleveland and a half a dozen other teams thought he would if they signed him," an offensive coach said. And before that, Mike Sando says, "Voters placed Watson at the bottom of tier 1 last offseason. They dropped him into the second tier this year." So it's not like Deshaun Watson played poorly. The same group of talent evaluators voted Deshaun Watson as a tier 1 quarterback last year. And they've dropped him because he hasn't played for a year or because of the accusations or whatever their reason, but dropping him from tier 1 to tier 2. So certain people dropped him. And what he says in the beginning of this, he says, Watson got votes in the first, second, and third tiers, plus a lone vote in tier 5. Obviously that guy, whoever that was like, this guy, whatever, and one talent evaluator said, "A tier 1 distraction is what Watson is. It blows me away paying the all-time contract for a tier 2 player." A GM said, "I can't believe the Browns did what they did. There's just too many unknowns. I know Andrew, and I can't just picture him doing that, taking the contract out there, just making this guy the face of your franchise and really not knowing, do we have him this year or not?" Let's see. One defensive coordinator said, "I know he's all screwed up, but he's a 1. I mean, I'm just rating him as a football player. He is a 1. He's legit. You could put the game on him. They were bad and losing in Houston but it wasn't because of him." So what this tells me is what I've always suspected, that we have a lot of gutless people working in the NFL. The NFL is supposed to be tough, mean, tough. But there's a lot of people that work in the NFL that are scared. They're scared, and I understand that because jobs are on the line. NFL executives and coaches make a lot of money. They make life-changing money. And your job is always, unless you're, the elite of the elite, and it takes a while to get there, but unless you're a Belichick or a Harbaugh or a Tomlin or, some of the top executives, and there's not many, right? Your job is always hanging in the balance. And so what's always kind of bothered me about the NFL is that so many executives and so many coaches are scared. They coach scared. They decision make scared. And we've gotten better, right? And so I think in the NFL, when we see what guys being like these younger coaches that are more aggressive, that go for it on fourth down, that blow off field goals to try to score a touchdown. A lot of the older fans can't wrap their heads around this. A lot of fans my age and older can't wrap their take the points, punt the ball. because that's how they've been conditioned to think. This conservative mentality in the NFL, this uptightness, this being scared. It's all part of it. And so that's when I read these quotes like, oh, he's a tier 1 distraction. Is Deshaun Watson a distraction on his team? If you ask the players on the Browns if Deshaun Watson is a distraction, how many of the players do you think would say Deshaun Watson is a distraction? And by the way, folks, I really want you to tweet at me about things you hear in the podcast, and I'm going to spend more time mentioning some of the tweets, even if I'm not talking about that subject the next day. So with this Watson topic or anything else that I get into, if you have a reaction to something I say in the podcast, I know some people put their messages on the YouTube page in the chat room, but send me tweets as well. I got to get used to looking at the chat room. I'm not used to that, so I'll try to do that and see more of the reaction there. But also send me tweets because that's where I'm more used to looking at the moment until I adjust, right? Like we're all old school in a certain way. You get used to doing things a certain way. It's hard to make changes. So please send your reaction. But when I hear these quotes, again, tier 1 distraction, I just don't buy. Obviously, there's issues with drafting Deshaun Watson. The Browns knew what they were getting into with the possible off-the-field stuff. I just don't buy that it's a distraction. I don't buy this. I can't imagine there's more than a couple of players, if any, on this team that are bothered by Deshaun Watson being here. All they care about is winning. Guys want to win. It's that simple. And Deshaun Watson is going to be eligible to play. He's going to miss a few games, and then he's going to come back, and then all this distraction will be behind. Yeah, it's going to get brought up by other fans. It's going to get brought up in the media by time to time, but for the most part, we're going to move on. Like once his suspension's over, if there's no new news about anything that happened to him off the field, to me, there's no point. I'm done discussing it. I mean, you could bring it up when he retires or if something else happens, sure. Then it's going to come up again. But to me, like this is such an old school, conservative, uptight, scared mentality from whoever this coach evaluator is that said he's a tier 1 distraction. It blows me away paying the all-time NFL contract for a tier 2 player. Well, it's not the all-time NFL contract anymore. They paid that to Kyler Murray, who's also a tier 2 player. And I'm sure any reasonable talent evaluator would say that Deshaun Watson's a significantly better player than Kyler Murray. And the guy and there's a bunch of guys who voted who dropped Watson solely because he didn't play or was off the field. So what does that say about your ability, some of these guys, your ability to evaluate talent, that you've changed your opinion based on the fact that the guy might be suspended a couple of games where he didn't play last year? I don't see that. I don't know why I changed my opinion on a guy. The GM who said, I can't believe the Browns did what they did. Why can you not believe what the Browns did what they did? They didn't have a good enough quarterback. They had an opportunity to get a quarterback who's really good, and the real, the situation is he's going to be suspended and miss some time. The Browns didn't make. That's what I can't understand. I get it. I do get it that I just talked about it. These guys are worried about losing their jobs. A lot of them don't want to think too far ahead. I get it. And Andrew Berry, if Deshaun Watson got suspended for the year, maybe Andrew Berry loses his job and he's out of luck. I don't know. But the Browns, I have to believe, didn't trade Deshaun Watson only for 2022. They traded him for him because they realized they could ride out the bad PR in the beginning and ride out any possible suspension, and then they would have a tier 1 talent quarterback for at least 5 years and hopefully for the next decade plus. To me, that's worth any PR problems or any suspension you have to go through. Now, again, I've said it before. If something else comes up, if he ends up getting, more trouble, gets out of the league, okay, well, then you could kill the team for that. And you could kill the team now preemptively saying, well, how do you know it won't happen again? Okay, I guess you don't. You want to hold the Browns accountable for that, you have every right to do it. I disagree, and I think in the long run, the Browns will be laughing last at all the people that were critical, including people said, well, I can't make this guy the face of the franchise. Why not? Did the Steelers not make Ben Roethlisberger? Little Benny? Wasn't he the face of a franchise? He was accused of rape. Little Benny Roethlisberger was accused of rape. Deshaun Watson wasn't. They gave him a hero's farewell out the door, Little Benny. Hero's farewell. By the way, where is Baker Mayfield? We gave you through 14, Matt Ryan. Tier 3. Number 15, Kirk Cousins. Number 16, Jimmy Garoppolo. Number 17, Ryan Tannehill. Number 18, Mac Jones. I don't like that pick. I think these talent evaluators, some of them are dopes. Number 19, Baker Mayfield. There he is. Comes in as the 19th quarterback, according to these talent evaluators. He's a lower tier 3 quarterback. Jalen Hurts is, and Carson Wentz tied for 20th. Jared Goff, 22. Trevor Lawrence, 23. Jameis Winston, 24. Justin Fields, 25. Tua, 26. Where's tier 4? I can't find tier 4. I don't know what's happening here. Are there only 3 tiers? Did I miss it? I don't know. Maybe I missed the dividing line between tier 3 and 4. Baker was 9. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The 24 is the last of tier, Jameis Winston. So tier 4 is like 16 to 24. That's tier 3. So Baker is a mid-tier 3 at 19. And then the rest of the guys at tier 4, starting with Justin Fields at 25. Tua, Davis Mills, 27. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Daniel Jones. Where's the Steelers starting quarterback? 31? Nope. Marcus Mariota, 32. Got to be 32, right? No, Sam Darnold is 32. And here comes Mitch Trubisky at 33, just ahead of Drew Lock. And then tier 4 is Geno Smith, all by himself, 35. Poor Geno, all by himself in tier 5. Oh, my gosh. All right, well, they still got Baker as a tier 3 quarterback. I'll give you some of the comments on Baker's ranked 19th. Are there any quarterbacks? I think that's about right. I think Baker's around 19. I think that's fair. I would argue I would rather have Trevor Lawrence than him. But that's about it. I'd put him ahead of Jalen Hurts, so he's one stop ahead of Jalen Hurts. I agree with that. Jalen Hurts is a good fantasy football quarterback. I don't think he's a good NFL quarterback. Here's what they said about, I got to take a break. Let me take a quick break. And that's what they said about Baker. And then I got some other things on the Browns that I want to get to. I'll get to the Guardians before the end of the podcast as well. That's all coming up. I want to remind you, of course, before I do, that today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. So let me just get to this, and I just want to read this real quick, and then I'll take a little bit more of a break, and then we'll come right back. But so Baker at number 19. Mayfield cost the Panthers $5.5 million in salary and a 2024 fifth-round draft pick that could upgrade to a fourth-rounder. That's a bargain when Sam Darnold is the alternate. But it's not necessarily the answer. Baker is not showing up at training camp and instantly becoming a 2 for Carolina, GM said. I think he's a 3 with upside, an interesting guy, head coach said. He needs to get humbled fast or his career is going to be over. Wow, a quarterback coach said. Mayfield has been better than Darnold, but he's had better players around him and more favorable structure. Quote, if he's humbled and wants to learn and grow and become a better quarterback and develop, Baker can probably be solid than Jimmy Garoppolo-ish solid, a defensive coordinator said. A head coach from a team with an upper-tier quarterback raised an interesting point regarding Mayfield's departure from the Browns. Quote, something is missing there, and I don't know what it is, the head coach said. I like his feistiness. I'm okay with that. He's not bad, but there's not one player that stuck up for him during this whole thing. Not one guy said, hey, this is my guy. So I don't know. If you put the tape on, his play is not brutal. An evaluator suggested Mayfield was average at best, despite playing in the most, quote, quarterback-friendly system there is with Cleveland. I think everything has to be perfect to win with those guys, this evaluator said before Mayfield was traded to Carolina. Quote, I don't know where Baker goes and makes an appreciable difference. And that's what I've been saying all along. I don't see it. I don't see him making an appreciable difference. But I think Baker, is fairly ranked at 19. I mean, that's where I'd have him, 18 to the 18 to 22 range. All right, quick break, and then more thoughts on the Browns, including a suggestion by Jake Trotter of ESPN that one Browns player is likely to be traded this training camp, and I do not want to see this player get traded. I would be quite perturbed if this particular player got traded. But first, betonline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including baseball, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, combat sports, golf, and even esports. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they've got you covered. Head to BetOnline today. It's awesome. You'll love it. Or use your mobile device to learn more about the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Excuse me. All right. So I was reading a column on ESPN this morning, and the headline was, what happened to my headline? I lost it. Here we go. NFL training camp has begun. Predictions, position battles, and players to watch for all 32 teams. And Jake Trotter, who does a good job covering the Browns for ESPN, gave his opinion on what to watch for in Browns camp. And this is what he says. Camp prediction. The Browns will trade running back D'Ernest Johnson during training camp. Yes, Johnson is coming off a breakout season, filling in for injured teammates Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and Johnson signed a 1-year extension with the Browns during the offseason. But Cleveland also drafted another running back in Jerome Ford, a 5th-round selection out of Cincinnati, who flashed a versatile skill set during OTAs and minicamp. With second-year playmaker Demetric Felton also returning, the Browns will move Johnson to a more running back-needy team. Now, this makes sense on the surface. Jake is right. The Browns are loaded at running back. If they can turn D'Ernest Johnson into something of value, they maybe can do it because maybe they feel like they can't keep all 5 guys on the roster. You don't usually keep 5 running backs. A lot of teams don't even keep 4. And the Browns are likely to keep a fullback, so in a way you'd have to be keeping 6. I get it, but I wouldn't do it. If I'm the Browns, I find a way to keep all 5 of those guys, plus their fullback, Johnny Stanton. I do not want to trade D'Ernest Johnson, and here's why. I think D'Ernest Johnson's a good player. I think he's a really good player. I think he could start for teams in the NFL. I think at the very least, he's a high-quality number 2 guy in a timeshare. And I'm afraid that if they trade him, they're just going to get a mid-round pick or whatever, and what's the value in that? I love having this depth at running back. And you say, well, okay, what are they going to do with all these guys? Do they have to get rid of somebody? Well, do they? Can't the Browns be a little creative and find a way? I mean, Demetric Felton could play some wide receiver. You could count him towards that group to some degree. There's no limit on specifically how many running backs you have. And also, I want to see if you're trading D'Ernest Johnson, if they somehow could turn D'Ernest Johnson into a rotational defensive tackle who could potentially be a starter, then I'd be open to it, I guess. But that's not realistic. They're probably going to trade him for a draft pick. And if they do, what's the point? So if you're trading D'Ernest Johnson for a draft pick, you're thinking a little bit about next year. Well, so am I. And Kareem Hunt is making a lot of money. And the Browns, while they have a ton of cap space now, will not have a ton of cap space next year, right? All these big contracts they signed are going to hit them next year. Now, the cap's going to shoot way up because the new TV contract's going to kick in. However, as of the moment, the Browns are projected to be over the cap for next year. So what are they going to have to do? They're not going to want to get rid of any of their high-money players, so they have to be smart other places. Kareem Hunt's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. He's a great player. But Nick Chubb's making a ton of money, and D'Ernest Johnson has shown you when he's been given the opportunity that he is a quality number 2. And while in the end, Kareem Hunt is better than D'Ernest Johnson, we know that. I think in the long run, the Browns are not going to be able to keep both Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So I'm keeping an eye on next year, and I want to keep D'Ernest Johnson around because I want him to be my number 2 guy with Nick Chubb in the 2023 season. And I think that's more important, not to mention the fact that Hunt and Chubb have both missed time. And so I think Dearness Johnson can play a decent, if either one of them is out for a game, he's number two guy. He's moving up into a significant role. We know Kevin Stefanski loves to use two backs, as he should. I know we sometimes complain that Nick Chubb doesn't get enough touches, but, it's not off by that much. And most teams now use two backs. And I don't want, Demetric Felton, Jerome Ford, we don't know what these guys are. They barely played. We know Dearness Johnson is. Now, he hasn't played a ton, but he's played more than those guys. And I think we all feel confident with him if either Chubb or Hunt or, if both guys are out, as was the case last year. So I am in no rush to trade Dearness Johnson. I think Jay could end up being right that they might do it. I just hope they don't, because I love Dearness Johnson, and I don't want to see him traded for a draft pick. I really do not. One other thing with the Browns. So yesterday, the mayor of Chicago unveiled this plan to put a dome on Soldier Field. And this has been talked about a lot in Cleveland. And I do think whether it's on the current stadium or, there's been talk about building the Browns a new stadium eventually. And I know tax dollars always goes to that. The Haslam's will spend some of their own money. I don't like spending tax dollars on stadiums, but if you're going to do it anyway, if the Browns are going to do things again to the stadium or they're going to build a new stadium, they've got to put a roof on it. I understand, we're tough. We want to be out in the cold. Yeah, I don't want to be out in the cold. Do you really want to be out in the snow and winter? Is that really a big advantage for the Browns? I mean, the Browns now have a top quarterback. I want him to be able to make plays in December and January. Don't you want to see December and January? I mean, I guess by the time that stadium is built, who knows the quarterback's going to be. These things take a while. But I don't know. I mean, think about it. Well, I really love to see them tear up that whole stupid airport downtown and build restaurants and housing for people. And I wish we could develop the lakefront and turn it into a mini Chicago is what we should do. And then the crowning jewel could be the stadium. Now, maybe they move the stadium somewhere else. I don't know. There's other parts of the city or I don't know what. I'm not the authority on where to put the stadium, but if they do build a new Brown stadium, they need to put a roof on it. They should have done it the first time. They need to do it this next time. Think about how much you potentially get a Super Bowl. Certainly, there are a lot of events you could have. We get 6 months of winter here. Let's make the stadium more useful to big events that we can get to the city, and then let's develop that down. I know it's easy for me to sit here in my house. I have no decision-making power. I don't know how complicated it is. I don't mean to be unfair to the people that are in charge of these things, but I'd love to see that stupid rich person airport ripped to pieces and have it developed. It would make the city so much better. I think the downtown area has improved so much in the almost 11 years I've been living here. I'd like to continue to see it get better, and I think tearing down that stupid airport would make things better. I don't know. Obviously, it's pretty complicated, or it would have happened already. All right, one more quick break, and then I'll wrap it up with some thoughts on the Guardians. That's coming up next, right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. All right, so we talked about the end of last week. It's being a big week for the Guardians. Leading up. By the way, I said something twice in the last week that was incorrect. I said that Monday is the trade deadline. Next Monday. It's actually Tuesday. Tuesday at 6 p.m. So 1 week from today at 6 p.m. Tuesday the 2nd is the trade deadline. I thought it was the 1st. It's normally the 31st. I thought they had pushed it back one day. They had actually pushed it back 2. So bad job out of me. But the Guardians going into the break were 2 games over 500. They had an 11-game road trip, 4 in Chicago, 4 in Boston, and then 3 with Tampa Bay. And I talked about how important it was because they come back home August 1st, the day before the trade deadline, and have they shown the front office and the ownership enough to make the owner open up the purse and spend some money. They got off to a good start, won the first 2 games with the White Sox, but now they've dropped 3 in a row, including a 3-1 loss to Boston yesterday, a Boston team that obviously had been awful pitching. And unfortunately, I was right that Nick Pivetta would pitch well against them, and he did. They lose. They drop to 3.5 games. They're now only a half game up on the White Sox for second place. And the Guardians got to snap out of it and get going. And one of the concerns right now is Jose Ramirez is in a major skid. I know he knocked in a run and got a couple hits yesterday, but he has not been playing well. I wonder how much that thumb is bothering him. And it's weird. You look at his numbers, like he's still leading the American League in ribby. He's got a good batting average. His on base is good. His OPS is good. But he hasn't looked like the same guy of late. And I wonder how much that's bothering him. But they couldn't hit it all yesterday. They couldn't get a big hit yesterday. They had 8 hits, okay, but couldn't get a big hit. And they fall 3-1. Plesac, he's just okay. He wasn't horrible, but 3 runs in 5 innings. It's not getting the job done. And so we'll see if they can bust out of it. They go in like bullpen by committee today. I think Brian Shaw is going to start the game, so it's a bullpen game today. And the Red Sox got this guy rookie named Winkowski coming off. He's been on the COVID list. He's pitched all right. They need to get the bats going. Franmil, they got to get him going. We've talked about this. He had 1 hit yesterday. They're just struggling, and there's too many holes in the lineup. Nolan Jones, got off to that hot start. He's cooled off. You had to expect that. And with a young team, again, the highs and the lows are pretty extreme. And they can't afford a big losing streak here. You got to get going. But you got 6 more games against Boston and Tampa. The Guardians cannot afford to be coming into the All-Star break under 500. And I'm a little worried about that right now. So hopefully that will not be the case. All right, thanks for joining me today. Make sure you follow me, as always, on Twitter, at Adam the Bull. Make sure you're following the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube. That's where you can see the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and see or listen to the podcast, my podcast. I'm under the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show umbrella, so please subscribe and hit the bell to get alerts for when the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is on or when we send out videos and when I send out my podcast. Also, if you need a video done, and congratulations or anything, check out my Cameo profile. I ran into somebody yesterday. It was like, dude, you made this awesome video for my friend. It was so great. So there you go with that. Make sure you like my podcast. Hopefully give me a 5-star review. So far, they've been all 5 stars. I appreciate it. And what else? Check out the Locked On Browns podcast with my guy G. Bush and Jeff Lloyd. And on today's Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show should be another doozy. Jay will be back. I think G will be back. We don't know for sure because he's on jury duty. I haven't heard yet from him this morning whether he's going to be back or not. I hope he's back. We need him back. So anyway, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Where else? But right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull.